Hello, welcome back here to the HGC Crucible. This weekend, 4 teams from North America and Europe have earned the right to challenge 4 HGC Pro League teams. We're about to swap to NA. My name is Solid Jake, and I'm here with the unofficial world's tallest caster, Jay Howe.
How's it going, man? I guess I can hold that title unofficially. If there's anybody out there that wants to argue that, I'll gladly stand tall there, as I know our cameraman over there is getting his due this weekend. I know that they love it when I'm here.
They're gonna get all the extra angles in there for you to make it work and make me not look like a midget. But you know, we have some teams that are not gonna be dwarfed as well. Open division teams really turned up the heat in Phase 2. And they are looking a lot stronger than Phase 1. Heroes Hearth Esports and Imported Support make it through as our 2 open teams.
Yeah, it's really cool. So a lot of these players we've known for a long time. We saw them a lot in the Phase 1, and we saw them just kind of excel as the year went on. And it's something that the Open Division kind of brought that we didn't really have, right? We have the stability of the Pro Division, but it actually falls down into the Open Division. And so we get to work with these players a lot. I see them all the time on my friends list. Half the time I see them on the tournament realm. They're practicing for an upcoming thing. They're scrimming against people. So the consistency of the teams and the rosters that we have given us probably the best season of the Open Division so far in Phase 2. And so things are looking a lot different here as compared to May when we were here the last time.
Overall, pretty different. The Crucible, the pro side, not as different as Naventic, now Lag Force, are once again here. If you look at the standings, yeah, we've got Roll20, Gale Force, and Tempo Storm. They're going to BlizzCon. But the Crucible is going to be Lag Force and Even in Death fighting for their lives. Now, if we rewind a few months back to the Phase 1 Crucible, Lag Force actually played Imported Support. Even in Death, they didn't actually win their series. They ended up getting a free spot from winning the Open Division playoffs when B-Step exploded. And they're on the chopping block in that 8th seed, about to be challenged this weekend by Heroes Hearth, and we have the rematch of Lagif and Imported.
It'll be pretty interesting to kind of see the rematch that we have today. I mean, we've got Imported Support who, if you missed the playoffs this past week, looked phenomenal. They ended up dropping, unfortunately, to Heroes Hearth in the finals, but they did so in impressive fashion. The way that they played the Aware coming out on the Ariel that started to warrant that first ban. We saw a lot of Brightwing play. We even saw the famed Cho'Gall that, you know, they made their name for in Phase 1. But against this team of Lagif, we know a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing about Lag Force is that we don't really know. They've made so many changes to where Tomster's role, Zuna moving back to Warrior, things like that. And they play an unusual play style, and it doesn't really matter their comp. There's a lot of really cool things between these matchups for the rematch that we have here about 4 or 5 months later.
There is a lot. Let's take a look at the actual schedule for this weekend. And you see that Diamond Skin held steady versus Polska, maintaining their position in the HGC Pro League for 2018. Today, we got a best of 7 coming up for Lag Force between Imported Support. Tomorrow will be TGG versus the Leftovers, and then Even in Death versus the highly anticipated Heroes Hearth Esports.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people with their eye on that one. It was the buzz around the Open Division playoffs. You saw several pros, especially NA pros, they were lingering in chat, some of them kind of lurking in chat, but you saw them tweeting about it. There was a lot of discussion from even our pro casters. I got to talk to Dreadnought. He's like, don't sleep on Even in Death. They might not have had the success that, you know, they wanted, or some people just kind of said, all right, that's kind of where they thought they would be. But Dreadnought told me, he said, don't sleep on this team. So Heroes Hearth, with a lot of hype behind them, Even in Death will be fighting for their spot.
That's tomorrow, and that's going to be great. But today, we have Imported and Lag Force. They've played before. Let's take a look at the matchup.
For the Crucible this weekend, we were pretty sure if we ended up losing to Heroes Hearth, we were going to face Lagif. So we had that going to the mind in the series before. Now that we know we're going to play Lagif, we've been preparing draft really hard lately. We feel like we understand the meta really well right now, and we're not only good at playing double support, but we understand which comps work at what times. And I think in draft we have a really big advantage, and we're going to use that to carry over in our set. FC Ignition switching over to tank has honestly made a really big deal as well. He's the primary shot caller, and moving over to tank has really helped the team be very concise and very quick in rotations, which is something you see out of HGC teams. So honestly, I think we're feeling better than ever, and we're ready to take Lag Force down. You know, I've had a long history in HOTS. I've played a lot of games in my life, and I've lost a lot of games in my life. You know, there's been a lot of disappointments in HOTS career for all of us. All of us amateur players, you know, we've had a long road. We've had a lot of struggles, and making to the HGC would be, you know, finally living the dream, basically. I mean, that's why we've been striving so hard for the past two and a half years.
My team's morale and environment going into this Crucible feels pretty good. We're confident as we're up against Imported, and we beat them the last Crucible, so it shouldn't be too hard to beat them again. My team's preparation going into this Crucible is pretty much just like anyone else. We scrimmed a lot and watched their games together, and mainly just study the drafts because that's a big part of the game. I feel Imported supports are a pretty good team. They just lack experience, but they're slowly getting better. They look a lot better than they did the last Open Division playoff. And I think some of the members on that team are actually good enough to play in HGC. So we'll see how they keep improving. I'm not sure about my team, but winning this match for me means that I'm not bad and I'm still good enough to compete, and pretty much just keep playing and keep living the dream.
Keep playing and living the dream.
You know when you win, you're not bad.
You know when you win,
You're not bad. The wise words from Biggie of, you know that you're not bad if you win.
Man, we have so much to say about these teams, but let's go straight into the battleground selection as we see the bands are actually going to be out there.
Dragonshire is going to be our first map. Now, to me, this is intriguing because we've seen things a little bit differently in Open Division, and we've actually seen a lot of success with it. The way that they play the double support style, high priority on Brightwing for teams like that of Imported support. So I got a feeling that if Lagaf has been studying those drafts, they'll be looking out for that early. If not, I guarantee you, because that is a map pick by Lagaf,
for the Dragon.
Imported support will have first pick. I guarantee you that if it's not Ariel or Brightwing, I'll probably just walk off stage because there's no way that they don't go that. So I want to see if Lagaf actually has done their homework.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few priorities for the Aware in general. He's very dangerous on the Ariel. Like you mentioned earlier, in Phase 1, they threatened the Cho'Gall a lot. Now, if we look just back at the playoffs and at the last couple of cups that we saw, Imported support actually won in the winners finals. It was a best-of-5 series where they defeated Heroes Hearth. Heroes Hearth, if you don't know, McIntyre, Crowan, Arthalon, a lot of names that are quite prominent in Heroes throughout the history. Well, they lost in the winners side of things. Imported was playing a lot of double support, plus Johanna, plus Zarya, and the solo carry. Very, very, very resident sleeper protection, we're never going to die. And they have different ways they like to evolve that composition, but oftentimes it did open with that Ariel, with that Brightwing for the Aware.
Well, we're going to kick things off, Jake. I feel the energy just kind of coming forward.
The Lucio beats.
The Lucio beats obviously are helping out quite a bit. Imported support, they said they had a good understanding of the draft. Draded feels confident on that, and they instantly take a look towards that Genji playstyle. The one thing about Lag Force, it doesn't matter what they draft. I've seen them draft Abathur, Zagara, and they're like, you know what if we just dive and we fight? The traditional Zuna style, how he kind of made his name. Lag Force banning out Morales.
Like, that is another pick that we do see played fairly often for Imported support, and especially in a map like this where they kind of just want to roam around between mid and bottom. Jayha, when we compare Lag Force as a team from the Phase 1 Crucible to now,
what is this?
That is different. And
Imported
this is
support,
good.
Who are you?
Make your team harder to draft against. Don't make yourself completely studyable from the playoffs, right? ETC is super meta, especially in Dragon for the rotation, and they're not showing off the double support right out of the gates, right?
I'm not going to walk off the stage, by the way. I still want to see what happens.
But how would you compare Lag Force's power level, even though they're here in the Crucible again, with Kenma being gone and iDream being brought into Flex, and then Tomster moving to support?
You know, it's interesting because I've had a chance to talk to Tomster on multiple occasions, and I asked him about the support role in general. And I'm like, how do you feel? Because Tomster made his name for himself, as we see the TAS Rhaegar, which is priority there. And he was talking about how it's not necessarily the most exciting role, he said. And he actually finds it somewhat easy. And it takes experience to learn the subtle nuances of a role. Right. But he's excelled in that role since he switched over. Yeah. He just doesn't get the same type of recognition that he did when he was playing
Assassin. And it didn't take him long. A couple weeks, it looked a little shaky. But, you know, around week 3, you know, found his groove. So the TAS Rhaegar, yes, that is double support opening for the side of Lag Force. That leaves them for so many big melee options. Not necessarily an Illidan map per se, because there's not as much room to chase with Illidan. Cassia, Vala. Cassia's been seeing a lot of good play lately.
Yeah, Specialty and Draded, they kind of flex between depending on what that ranged is. One of them plays the off support, the other one will play the range, and they kind of go between Specialty being one of the more prominent ones on those ranged assassins, and has done a phenomenal job, I think, at times. I think, was it imported support that we saw on this map where we saw like 100,000 plus damage on a Cassia that just kind of skirmished bot lane?
I think it was 161,000.
Yeah, it was crazy, something along those lines. But there's the Ariel pick that we talked about. The Aware has made his name so much in the open division that teams were first banning Ariel no matter the battleground. No matter the battleground. Even Heroes Hearth even respected it at some point to where they're like, you know what, we've got to ban this.
It forces the response of a Cho'Gall respect ban, and it's because they're known for it. They were known for it. Phase 1, still known for it.
Well, when you pick Rhaegar Tassadar, Cho'Gall, you're like, all right, well, how do we kill Cho'Gall with this composition?
You got Greymane, but it's definitely a warranted ban. They go for the Cho, not the Gall. What do you think about that?
You know, it's strategic, so you can still keep the Cho for a ban later in the game. He's that big of a guy. You know, either way, we're going to see ETC potentially in the solo lane. Not necessarily, and that's the thing that the Cho'Gall ban with ETC in the new role that we see him, sometimes he's that split, and the way that Imported likes to run double support, you can kind of lend that help up there to help ETC get your clear in the bottom. Now, if you are going to run that style, I got a feeling that if they've done their homework, this might be a Malthael ban, something along those lines to make sure they have that top lane control. So I want to see what Imported support does here.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Imported is they do play a lot of double support, right? You're not likely to see them with just Ariel. And their clear isn't great right now. Whereas you look at Rhaegar, Tassadar, they both do quite well for those roles in the clear department. So they need to get another support. Maybe it'll end up being Brightwing. Brightwing Ariel, not the most common thing for them. They would rather have a Rhaegar or something like that, but they will do it. If that's the case, Lunara is going to be the main battery for Ariel most likely, and like you said, they need the solo lane still. So,
yeah, you know, the whole thing about it with the Anubarak ban, I think that's just more of respecting Zuna's playstyle. Zuna loves to dive that back line, and when you're on Ariel, you're back there and you're like, all right, I don't want to be dove upon, especially Lunara back there. It forces you into something possibly like Leaping Strike to make sure that you have some type of mobility. The Garrosh is going to be there, and there's the Malthael that I was actually worried about, but what we've seen in the Pro Division is teams counter that with the double support, potentially a Lucio here, to make sure that when Tormented Souls goes out, you drop the beat, you've got some big shields, and you just kind of sustain through it.
I'm actually really interested what Imported support's practice looks like when it comes to playing against the Garrosh rotation, right? Garrosh is very easy to deal with if you understand the positioning, you know, move forward towards him a little bit to dodge the getting pulled in.
It's like an old Kerrigan combo. It's better to move in instead of run away.
Yeah, and you know, in Open Division, just for those who don't watch it, we don't see Garrosh. He is
not a lot.
Almost never played. When he first got added a little bit, then people started to learn how to play against it. But I don't think Garrosh was played a single game in playoffs in the 8-team WLM bracket and Cup 7 or Cup 6, at least from what we saw from the top teams.
The battlegrounds I like him on, Dragonshire, Firaxis, Tomb, to where there's kind of like that close area. You're going to be skirmishing around a central point. You can kind of get advantage. So even if you miss that one groundbreaker, you're trying to toss them over, you miss one, you'll have several opportunities because you'll be in that area. There's the Brightwing we talked about. Okay. We're going into the Zarya this time.
So again, we talked about this a little bit, the super sustain. And like commonly it was like Zarya, Johanna, double support, one carry. Definitely a play on that same style. They're trying to be invincible, but I mean, they have some nice responses to things like the Malthael when he dives in, Polymorph for some good control. Expulsion Zone is another big thing that this team excels with. They are particularly good with that Zarya.
Are they away from the Chromie? That's what I want to know. They have traditionally always picked Chromie towards the end of their draft, but this composition of Ariel, Brightwing, Zarya, and Lunara post 13, if you need greater spell shield, it's there. I don't know if Chromie fits here, but they have run so much Chromie on this battleground.
Could still see the Vala or the Cassia if they don't want to go that way.
Yeah, with the Tassadar there, it seems likely that you'll go more into that style.
Yeah. 2 seconds, it's the Vala. So, pretty standard draft here. Garrosh it's a good map for him overall. ETC will have the peels and the options in most cases, or he'll need to. And yeah, Zarya is definitely something that Swabs Magoo in particular is very good with. He is, when you're looking at the Open Division team, you don't necessarily have hero pools that look like the Pro League team, right? It's the amateur scene for a reason, but this is one of the top teams, and they are quite flexible. And Swabs Magoo is the Zarya when we look at Open.
And if we go back to just the interview, Biggie respects so many people on this side that he said that there are people on this team that could and potentially should be in the Pro Division, and they're going to have their shot against the very man that made that comment about them. I don't know. I'm excited to see. Imported support. I actually saw a tweet from Draded just a little while ago. He talked about how important this match was. This is like the biggest match of his career. So will nerves affect? This is your second opportunity. Do you get do those nerves you kind of play on the, okay, that's the biggest stage that we've been on. Are we a little bit more okay now? I want to see how they come out in first game.
I mean, at least they've had the opportunity to do this once, right? It's another best of 7. There's a lot to learn. Yes, the meta has changed significantly. The teams have changed quite a bit since then as well, so I don't think it'll look anything like... I think at the first Crucible, there's a ton of Leoric. Like, almost every single game, there's a Leoric in play, and it's not quite as common, but we are ready to start the series on Dragonshire between Imported Support and Lag Force. We're rolling on in.
Jake, here we go. Kicking off the HGC NA Crucible with Lag Force on the left, and it will be Zuna on that Garrosh, Biggie on that carry role of Vala, Tomster, of course, on the support on Rhaegar, B-Kid on that melee, no longer the tank. He's going to be on Malthael with iDream flexing over onto the Tassadar.
Imported support rolling in from the Open Division with Ignition on ETC. We have the Aware playing his fabled Ariel. Swabs Magoo going to be playing Zarya. Draded on Brightwing, and rounding out the team, we've got Specialty, their carry on that Lunara.
This is an Open Division special right now. We talked about it. I hinted at it a little bit during the draft, is that they don't necessarily have the traditional 1-1-3, 1-4 rotation. They'll go into something like a 2-1-2, and they'll just say, well, we don't think you can punish that one lane as hard, so they just kind of run this style to where they'll have a support and a damage top lane, they'll have somebody holding mid, and then they'll do the exact same and mirror the top with the bottom.
Another thing that we've seen, on the rise recently is just so much more Brightwing. Ever since she got the buffs, wouldn't be too shocked to see a lot of that in these cases. I mean, when you run a super sustained style, yeah, Zarya lets you, theoretically pressure the wall early, like, use that shield, absorb that all up, give Zarya some more DPS and do some damage. But with this split, you're basically sacrificing that.
It's an interesting thing because with Zarya Brightwing on the bot lane, it's not exactly the most fearful, right? And I actually like the rotation down. They recognize that you can get some type of advantage with this composition, but if we take a look at the minimap, Garrosh is actually rotating top. And Lunara finding herself a little bit of a scuffle going on here mid lane.
Ooh, missing the Detainment Strike might be enough for the kill here onto Specialty. Polymorph will go out, and the heal comes from Ariel. Looking to turn the fight using that global of Brightwing. Zuna has the poison.
Do we got a W?
I don't know. Shields are there anyway, so.
It's the one thing that I think Garrosh suffers the most from is poke-style damage. If you can avoid those pulls in, he suffers from that slow, painful death, the same way an old ETC would, is that teams figured out, like, all right, if we don't give him opportunities and we just poke him to death, what does he actually do? Because it's not like you can just walk in. So that's a very interesting matchup as we get later into the game.
All right, nice rotation again onto Draded, and this is what I was saying. I don't know exactly how comfortable they're going to be playing against the Garrosh, because honestly, they just weren't prepared. He was way too far forward, there was no call on the rotation, and they just essentially didn't respect the Garrosh in the shadow.
100% agree with you. Level 4 picked up here by both teams. We've got the channel in favor of Lag Force. We'll see if there's a play made on it after these Siege Giants are picked up, but as we can see on the minimap, Imported Support rotating up. They're going to recapture the top, but now we'll see some bottom lane pressure here in a moment once those start to push their way in. All the while, that double kind of split there between the support and the damage top lane. I want to see, can they make that happen? Can they sustain that style with things like this happening in the bot lane?
We'll see. So far, I mean, it looks like it's constantly just lag force in the aggressive position, posturing forward, getting the siege on the wall with this first camp. Haven't seen a camp attempted here for the side of Imported. The one death on Brightwing is negligible, but if that becomes a recurring case, then yeah, it's going to become a problem. 6-6. Does level 7 change too much? I mean, the phase shield from Brightwing gives him the more snap sustain. There is a case for cleanse versus Garrosh for sure, but we haven't seen too much of that recently.
Yeah, I think that we'll probably still see that, the phase shift build, as we see both of the shrines are being channeled here by Imported support. They're rotating mid, specialty, dealing with this top lane. Normally melees lose against ranged, but Lunara isn't exactly that scary there, plus he's got the great self-sustain, so we'll see again how these rotations work for both teams.
Good control from Imported. They're just trying to find the opportunity. But yeah, like you said, the lack of kill potential, the double support to sustain on both sides of the map, and the way that Lag Force is roaming hasn't really made it look like there's been too many opportunities for Imported to find a kill or anything like that. They are getting a little bit of poke on the towers here and there, but
Gank squad.
Good rotation. Oh, Draded.
Draded's in a bad spot, but that shield is going to soak up so much of that energy there for Zarya, making Zarya a threat going into feel the heat at level 1, and then the extended range at high energy on the auto attack at level 7. So now in those team fights, if you can soak up that energy, Zarya gets a bit more value. But against this composition, you've got that lightning shield that we already saw trying to soak up some of that as the Aware's getting pulled and tossed.
This is actually really tough. The Aware ends up dying, but to make it worse, during a good portion of that, Malthael was actually winning the top lane. He forced the Lunara to go back to base. Hearth, they miss a full lane of XP just about. Now Specialty is reclaiming that, but this is a lane where Malthael is going to be very deadly. And they're down 2 kills, they're down some XP, and it's slowly starting to show the favor for Lag Force.
Yeah, and generally this is kind of the old Dragonshire where you got teams, they don't necessarily have the most aggressive earlier. Lag Force has got a little bit more of that kill potential, but it's normally right around level 10 when things start to pick up. So we've kind of got that old school traditional style Dragonshire going on where teams are feeling each other out. They're looking for those picks, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of ease your way into the game. So Dragonshire, the aggression not there by either team, just slightly in favor of Lag Force.
Finally seeing a Merc camp picked up here from Imported. We did have the Knights picked up. Rhaegar, so useful. And just adding your team nice clear and a threat in the jungle for those mercenary camps. It is level 10 approaching quickly for Lag Force, and that's going to make a window of lots of danger there for Imported support.
Yeah, one thing that we'll have to keep an eye on as the Siege Giants will push down here in the bottom is Lunara. Solo clearing a Knight camp top is going to be a little bit problematic. She doesn't have the best clear. You do have Splintered Spear at 7, so it does help. But that will gain value, and that will push you closer to 10 if that can start getting structures down. And so it's up to Imported support to find a way to get that. As you can see, that the ammo is completely depleted, and if they can push this in at all, there's the 10 already for Lag Force.
Malthael value. Brightwing looking for the potential play up here with the Polymorph. They're going to get lots of good damage in. B-Kid actually looking to potentially turn around. Does pop the Tormented Souls. Rotation from the Aware going to be good. B-Kid, he might be dead here.
That's slow.
The Dream?
That
iDream
slow
Shield?
is terrifying.
Just a little bit shy.
Terrifying. They end up getting the kill on ETC mid as he was trying to defend. No level 10 yet here for Imported support. And things for Lag Force going particularly well. 3 kills to 0. Not quite opened up the map just yet, but level 10 now online for Imported support.
All right, so now they have double global. That's going to be a good advantage to have, especially in the late game. They went for the stage dive. Expulsion zone, we talked about that. That is something that we've seen Swabs and Goo be very effective with in the past, and that gives them amazing zone control, especially in Garrosh. When that poison damage is ramping up, you want to be able to open that space for him. Tomster clearing space for the Dragon. That is a quick Dragonite. Once 10 is picked up for Lag Force. Going to look to extend their lead a little bit. Who's going to be here to respond to this so far? Just Brightwing.
Yeah, and they're trying to look for opportunities elsewhere. The team's finally taken a safe path to defense, but the Dragonites, for the last few months, they've been a lot stronger ever since they got that buff back in July. So definitely something that you can't just ignore. It was only 7 minutes in. I say only, as it felt like an eternity. But we got it 7 minutes in, doing a bit of damage there. They're going to put their attention down to the bottom as the stage dive comes in.
All right, Zuna receives the cleanse to make it through the gates and live on, but the stage dive means they have no soak and no threat to the dragon. So, and then it's another win for Lag Force. If the moment you don't get the pick when you make that call, you just put yourself further behind.
Yeah, 100% agree with you, is that you make those risks, and sometimes the risk will outweigh the reward there, but, you know, in the end, iDream should confirm this top 4 as the fire rages on. That will give them a tad bit of experience and get them closer to 13.
Yeah, a good time to punt to keep Specialty away. It is Tassadar, hard enough to kill, but if the damage isn't there, then there's just no chance to even try to look for it. Bottom lane has been pushed in completely here from Zuna Topster and Big E, and it's 2 forts with the Dragon phase favoring Lag Force. Looking at 2-level lead, JL.
Yeah, you know, it's a bit of a tough spot, right? I mean, do you defend the top? That Dragonite didn't have a ton of time on it, but you want to try and save that. When you overcommit to the defense there, then all of a sudden you might lose the bottom. Things like that are going to happen, and those are small mental mistakes that happen. And again, we talk about the big stage here for imported support. This is a big moment for them, one of the biggest of their careers, possibly ever for a lot of these players. So sometimes things like that, nerves will get in the way. You can still get out of the way, still have a great team fighting composition. We'll see as the fights do get on, they'll get close to 13 and try and make something happen.
If the fights happen. Right now, Lag Force is just making sure they don't. They're playing the split game. They're forcing out some of these, not forcing, but baiting out some of these stage dives and global, you know, soaks from Brightwing, and it's just not working for them. Leaping Strikes, both choices have been used. Does get away from Zuna, looking for that pull-in on Garrosh.
Just like, I'm going to jump here, then I'm going to jump there, and I'm going to be out of danger. But now we've got the poison. We'll see if we can get the slowest, the toss over. No charge strikes are going to be there. Therefore, the Crystal Aegis is out. Stage dive on the backside. Emerald Wind as well, but the Tormented Souls are out.
Tormented Souls doing big damage. The Ancestral Heal going to be enough to top off that Malthus, and Swabzagu goes down quick in this fight. Ignition, the next focus point, the Aware, also incredibly low on that Ariel. Going to get pulled back in, and death for 2 members on the side of imported support. The map is wide open. They can go for whatever merc camps they want.
You can basically take complete control. You went from a level lead where imported support started to get back in. They were almost 13, but now you can play the talent tier game. You can play the map control game if you're on the side of Lag Force, and we'll see them start out by getting the siege camp, Shrine spawning in 10 seconds, and if nothing goes great, they just wait till 16 and look for their opportunities. And so far, Jake, they have capitalized on every single one of those.
They have, and you know, you basically saw what the way that Lag Force approached that fight. They're just like, well, let's just kill Lunara. She's the only one that can do anything to us. The fight opened up with just them pulling Lunara in, forcing the Crystal Aegis. They then had to stage dive in the backside, use Emerald Wind to try to buy space for the Lunara, but during all that, they're just like, all right, well, we'll focus Zarya.
Get out of here. He's like, you know, I don't want you here. I'm just going to throw you over the wall. I'll see you in a few seconds. I like a Garrosh. It's like, all right, that's cool.
And now Ignition needs to be a little bit careful. 16 is around the corner, so it's not really a point where they can fight. A little bit careful. He didn't heed that warning because now he is dead. Feels bad, man. So it is currently 6-0 in terms of kills. And there's no other way to put it. Lag Force is looking like the dominant team.
They definitely are. And we're talking about 11 minutes in, 16-13. This Dragonite will push in, get a bit of experience off the mid fort. Look for them to potentially try and make a play either on mid keep wall or bot keep wall. I'd like to see them make a play towards bot keep wall, but the quickest point of opportunity will be mid as Swabs Magoo eats quite a bit of damage. Expulsion Zone is out, and he's in trouble right now, Jake.
Emerald Wind, phase shift had to be used to keep Swabs alive, and that's a big resource. I mean, it's only a minute, but it's still something you're going to want to have for the rest of this Dragon, which has another 45 seconds for its duration to pressure another keep wall, further extending that advantage here that Lag Force has in the XP department.
I think the one thing that you'll have to consider here, ETC is soaking at the top. If imported support feels desperate and you have Lag Force kind of stationed here near your lane, once those siege giants start to go down, they push in too far, we might have a potential stage dive on the backside and a fight forced. It could either go really good or terribly bad and potentially end the game. And speaking of ending the game, we got problems here. Here comes that stage dive.
Stage dive Crystal Aegis have to be used. Emerald Wind still not at the ready, and Ignition and Swabzagu are just taking so much damage. The heal from Ariel tops them off, and they managed to destroy the Dragon Knight. The fort's still standing. I think they've held. They don't want to push out too far here, though. They're still down 17-14.
Yeah, this is it's more than just the talent tier at this point. It is the experience advantage, which leads to that more health, more damage, things like that. You don't want to mess with that right now. You take that fight, you could potentially lose the game. The thing about it is, Lag Force has the potential to siege up here. You've got these Psy Storms that can come out from Tassadar. Speaking of Tassadar, there's a force wall coming out.
Emerald Wind has to be used immediately. They managed to hold on to Ignition's life, but at what cost? That time the Garrosh flip not going to be able to get Drade to pull back in, but Malthael has so much damage to offer. Garrosh once again finds Swab's Magoo, and this Garrosh is just, they're not ready for it. It feels like they don't understand how to play against him.
Oh, there we go. The Aware, come on in, buddy. Let's play. That's going to be 2 members down. A keep going to be the full focal point here for Lag Force as they are taking complete control. Specialty. Oh! Feels bad,
RNG Jesus does not smile upon you today, Specialty, as the Hungering Arrow finds its mark.
It's like watching it in slow motion. It's probably even more slow motion. You see that and you're like, don't hit me again.
Why, please?
Don't. Oh, all right, whatever. Like, there's nothing you can do. Just kind of shrug your shoulders.
Yep.
Wait, do Dryads have shoulders?
They do now. I mean,
how does it? I mean, I guess
they have
got
head.
arms.
Where's the head?
I don't know.
On the
do you
shoulders.
have 2 sets of shoulders?
Sure.
I don't know, man. Do they have? You know what? We're just gonna skip that time and move on.
So, keep down doesn't mean the game is over, but the 3-level lead basically means that Lag Force needs to make a monstrosity of a misplay, overextending, getting picked, multiple times essentially. 16 will be good, but man, it's 20 before you know with the Storm talents. Yes, we do have both of the shrines up. They will be controlled 1-for-1, split, and they're looking for the play here on the Draded. Gets the phase shift away, but Emerald Wind was burned.
Emerald Wind was burned. Phase shift as well, and that was actually a really good play. They're on the side of imported support to stay alive, but their window of opportunity right now, incredibly small, like some Dryad shoulders.
Hey, I mean, this makes it a real game, though, because with Brightwing not dying, that means they actually destroy a structure. One wall is down, Jay. Yeah!
I mean, but here's the thing, is now you're giving up all kinds of things, because your response for most teams, if you have a team and you're this far ahead and you're this close to a talent tier, the best thing you can do is somebody's pushing in, they're taking your forward, you're like, you know what? I take that.
Okay, they're looking
I'm going to go get 20.
B-Kid on the backside. Stage dive very deep, a little bit too far. Like Garrosh, meanwhile, gets the whole team pulled into a big rain of vengeance, especially using that leaping strike to reposition, but the Aware not going to be so lucky. Emerald Wind 5 seconds away. Swab Magoo desperately holding onto his life with the shields and the heals of the Brightwing, but it's looking desperate here as we see Ignition going down as well. This could be game.
Yeah, this should be game at this point. No bottom keeps standing in the way. The catapults aren't necessarily going to be there, but you don't need them. You've got another 20, 30 seconds before 3 members of imported support come back. Only Lunara and Brightwing will keep you there. Get those stacks, Biggie. Get that hatred built up, and then get on the core the minute somebody eats those shots, and this is going to be Lag Force taking it home, barring some miracle defense here, but this should be Lag Force taking game number 1 of this best of 7.
The desperate defense attempted. Going to be unsuccessful. All right, Lag Force holding strong. Jay Howe, let's talk a little bit about imported support. This team, coming from the Open Division, showed off a very common style very frequently in playoffs. Commonly opening the draft with Ariel, commonly opening the draft with Brightwing. They ended up picking both of those heroes ultimately in the end, but it didn't look like they had a global advantage. It didn't look like they had any kill potential, and Lag Force just never looked for a straight-on even full 5v5 fight. They're just like, you know what, we're going to run around you.
The thing is, how do you initiate that fight, right? Garrosh is the main initiator, and he's on the other team. And if you're playing ETC, your main initiation is to stage dive from the backside. And that's why I said, like, heroes like Garrosh and ETC, they struggle from a poke war, although it's basically mirrored at that point between Lunar and Vala. But you generally have kind of like that straight-in engage. It's you have a way in and you have a way out, things like that. You have different protections. But if you full commit to a fight with a stage dive behind the enemy team and you don't land something, now all of a sudden your initiation is from behind and it's not quite there, and Garrosh will happily move into your team. And so the initiation of the team fights felt a little bit off at times. Generally, when you play that style, you want to have maybe one person bait out in a lane, then use your stage dive and your phase shift in, turn potentially a 2v1 into a 3v2 or something along those lines. And they couldn't find those opportunities. You got to credit Lag Force for a lot of that, because they made sure that when they rotated, Malthael was just safe top. They would occasionally go up there early, but their 4-man rotation was just really difficult to deal with, and they would get the picks and opportunities just based on Garrosh alone. So you got to credit Zuna a lot in that. No feed.
I mean, Zuna was making the picks happen, and I feel like the lack of someone to lane against Malthael on the top hurt them a lot too, because like Lunar does okay, but ultimately Malthael is going to be fine in that lane. You're not really going to be putting heavy pressure onto him, and once in a while you'd see ETC up there making sure they could maintain a presence on that top shrine. As soon as he left, they just felt like they weren't getting the picks they were looking for. So I hope we see some adjustments made here, because that was the premier style that they were mostly defaulting to in playoffs for imported.
But the thing is the Zarya pick, right? We don't really see a lot of Zarya on Dragonshire. So where Zarya gets a lot of value pushing structures by soaking up energy and doing that, and then finding it around team fights that happen on occasion. The repeated team fights finding that Zarya value, because by the time Zarya is like, I'm fully charged, it's like, all right, well, your team's fully dead. And it's just like, well, you know, and it's hard then. I think she went Painus Temporary at 13. It's like you can only sustain for so long against that style. I talked about the potential Lucio pick to try and deal with the Tormented Souls. It's like the minute Tormented Souls was done half the time, half your life was gone, and then Vala is there for cleanup. Tassadar's making sure to put that AoE damage down. It was a very hard way to get Zarya value. And I'm not saying the Zarya play was bad. I'm just saying that I don't know if it necessarily fit on Dragonshire in that composition.
Well, let's find out what the next